Hello, I'm Maurice Hamilton, a Formula One journalist for 40 years and working with Sporting Memories, and here we are at Silverstone, where my first memory of coming here was not as a journalist but as a race fan. 1967. Me and three mates in a Volkswagen Beetle drove over from Northern Ireland. We camped in the field just over there, across the road from the main gate, and we spent 4 days here in heaven. Because for us, Formula One was the thing we followed in Northern Ireland, but we couldn't get close. The British Grand Prix would always represent the best chance possible of getting in to see what we loved, but also to get so close, which you could do in those days. So we would be camping across the road. And I remember, there's lots of things you remember, of course, about motor racing. There's the noise, the speed, the smell. And it's not just, Silverstone says to me, it's Castrol R or the smell of rubber. It's the smell of bacon and eggs. Because when you walked into the main gate, that's what you got. People camping everywhere. And we made our way. We didn't have equipment to cook because we were four blokes, so why were we going to cook? So we'd go to the cafe in the paddock here, queue up. And in those days you would see drivers from the support races queuing up for breakfast, as well as occasionally the odd Grand Prix driver. I mean, imagine that now. And the support races would be up the club straight. The main teams would be behind the pits. You could walk in and you could not quite but almost rub shoulders with the Grand Prix drivers. I mean, I had an autograph book then which I was able to fill because I was able to get to the drivers and get autographs, which of course sadly you can't do now. So you would have all of that in the background and then you would go out to watch. And a memory of 67 is one of many, is Jackie Stewart was driving the H16 BRM, which was a pig of a car with a huge big 16-cylinder engine in the back, and he was drifting that car through what was then the old Beckett's Corner. It's not there anymore. Well, it is there, but it's hidden, and it was a long right-hander, and he was power sliding this car through that corner. And I remember me and my mate standing there, our jaws dropped at his ability to make that pig of a car go so fast. He didn't win the race that year. In fact, it was won by Jim Clark in the Lotus, who was of course a hero, Scotsman, fellow Scotsman with Jackie Stewart, a fellow Celt for us. But we all felt very close to Jim Clark because he seemed such a modest, nice guy. And of course, he won the race in the Lotus, and unbeknown to us, that was the last time that we would see Jim Clark not only win a race but just see him in person, because he was killed the following April. A memory of that particular day is that when Clark won the race, instead of now when the driver wins the race, there's a set routine that they have to go through. They have to get out of the car, they have to go onto the podium, they have to go to the TV studio, then in to see the media, which, having been a member of being a member of the media, I do appreciate the regimented style, because you know what you're going to get, you know you're going to get your interview. But back in 67, Jim Clark would go on the podium, would get his trophy, and then they put the car and the team and Jimmy on a trailer, and I think it was a tractor, towed it right round the circuit. And we felt quite bold, because we came underneath the fence and stood in the bank, which was quite daring in those days. And we stood and watched him go by and waved and paid our tribute to this great man who modestly was waving as he went by, all the crowds. And then they said, would you mind going back to your seats, please, because we've got another race to run, which we duly did. So that's how it was, just such a different atmosphere. But still, you can feel it as you drive into the gates here. I've got all these memories, and lots more that have followed since, you know, obviously with the Nigel Mansell days, the Damon Hill days. I was working with Damon in '94 when he won here, and he described it as a day from heaven when he won here in front of the home crowd. So it gives you a feel for the colour and the atmosphere. Then, of course, I saw Jackie Stewart, in conversation with Jackie Stewart, one of the best races I have ever seen. And I've been to over 500 Grand Prix. And the 1969 British Grand Prix, right here, when he battled wheel to wheel with Jochen Rindt, was an absolute classic. Moving on, Lewis Hamilton, of course, you can imagine, surfing the crowd up at the new pit wing. Again, very different to Jim Clark, how he acted at the end of the race, but that's what you do now. But again, a special memory for people who saw it, and I'll understand that I read lots of tweets and memories of last year's Grand Prix. The 2016 British Grand Prix, people saying they'll never forget the sight of Lewis Hamilton crowd surfing and so on, and that's their memory, and that's great. And I hope that in 40 years' time they'll feel the same then as I do now about 1967.